Hey there. So you might think you know exactly why you like the things you do, right? Like it's all your own personal choice. Well, today we're diving into this explainer to uncover the invisible forces that secretly engineer our favorite things. Let's get right into it.
Why do you actually like what you like? You probably believe your taste in music, your go-to morning coffee, or even the art you hang on your walls is just a product of your own unique free will. It makes total sense, but as we'll see, we're going to playfully dismantle that belief. Those preferences, yeah, they're often engineered entirely behind the scenes.
Let's look at two monumental historical flops. First up, Outkast's absolute global smash hit, Hey Ya. Crazy as it sounds, when it first hit the radio back in 2003, listeners initially hated it. They literally kept changing the station. Then there's Nestle's attempt to bring coffee to 1970s Japan, which was, a deeply ingrained tea-loving culture. Both of these faced massive rejection right out of the gate. Why? Simply because they were totally unfamiliar to their audiences.
But here's where it gets wild. Marketers essentially hacked our brains to fix this exact problem. For Hey Ya, radio stations literally sandwiched the song between super familiar Celine Dion hits just so people wouldn't touch the dial. And Nestle, they pivoted and targeted Japanese kids with coffee-flavored sweets to plant the taste early. Eventually, this repeated exposure bred massive success, literally cultivating a whole new cultural palette. This whole phenomenon actually has a scientific name. It's called the mere exposure effect, or the familiarity principle. It is basically a cognitive bias where continuous, unreinforced exposure to a stimulus systematically enhances your positive attitude toward it. Think about it evolutionarily. Your brain strongly associates familiarity with safety. So simply being exposed to something over and over again is literally enough to make you genuinely enjoy it.
Section 1. The Science of Familiarity. Let's see how this builds from a basic aesthetic observation into hard, testable neuroscience.
The science here traces all the way back to 1876 with Gustav Fechner's early aesthetic observations. Fast forward to the early 1900s, and you have Edward B. Titchener describing this distinct, almost cozy glow of warmth we feel when encountering something familiar. But the real game changer, that came in 1968, when psychologist Robert Zions formalized the affective primacy hypothesis. He completely revolutionized the field by proving these preferences actually form unconsciously. Zions famously coined the phrase, "Preferences need no inferences." Basically, what he meant was that our liking for something happens instantly, at a pre-attentive level. It completely bypasses our conscious analytical logic. You don't have to rationally figure out why you like something. Your brain just registers it as familiar, and therefore good.
And this brilliantly illustrates his point through our everyday language. Did you know we encounter the word love 7 times more often than the word hate? Or that laugh is used 2.4 times more frequently than cry? Zions suggested that we attribute positive connotations to these words simply because we run into them significantly more frequently in our daily lives.
He even proved this biological hardwiring in an incredibly bizarre experiment. Zions literally played specific audio tones prenatally to unhatched chick eggs. And get this, after hatching, those chicks naturally gravitated right toward those exact familiar sounds over novel ones. It's just wild, proving this is a deep biological bias wired right into our survival instincts.
Moving on to Section 2, Engineering the Art Canon. Let's scale this up from baby chicks to the heights of high culture. Researcher James E. Cutting embarked on a massive study to see if our reverence for fine art is actually just an exposure bias. He created a huge database, compiling over 4,000 reproductions of 132 French Impressionist images found across 1,000 different books. It was like a giant puzzle to figure out why we truly revere these masterpieces.
The data, as a major plot twist, is absolutely staggering. 59% of the time in these trials, viewers consistently preferred the paintings they had been exposed to more often in books. And the kicker? This held true completely regardless of their art history knowledge. You didn't even need to step foot inside a museum to have this bias.
This means we don't necessarily love a piece of canonical art because it's somehow objectively a better painting. We prefer it because curators and authors have relentlessly broadcasted those specific images to us. This tacitly teaches the public to prefer them, creating this massive, cyclic reinforcement of the cultural canon. Familiarity, in essence, creates the masterpiece.
Okay, Section 3, Marketing Secret Weapon. Let's talk about e-commerce.
Because if this can engineer high art, you better believe modern e-commerce is using this exact same psychological blueprint to hack your shopping habits. Just look at your daily digital environment. Algorithms repeatedly nudge you with pinned search items or bestsellers prominently displayed on homepages, and those abandoned cart emails featuring items you left behind, they're constantly keeping products fresh in your mind until you finally click buy.
And it absolutely works. Neuroscience research even shows that dropping a highly familiar pop song into a commercial advertisement boosts our attention, emotion, and memory by a whopping 20%. The brand is just piggybacking off the familiarity you already have with the tune. It's a real game changer.
Section 4. The curve of diminishing returns. Because, as it turns out, there is a limit to all this exposure. This psychological hack is not a limitless superpower. Zion's curve reveals that while those initial few exposures are incredibly powerful with super high impact, you eventually reach an optimal threshold where your peak liking score hits the ceiling. But if you cross that threshold with a relentless barrage of the same stimulus, that triggers overexposure, causing declining reputation, total fatigue, and just straight-up irritation.
So what does this all mean? It brings us to a final, pretty provocative thought. Are your preferences truly your own, or just the product of a lifetime of invisible exposure? The next time you confidently choose a favorite brand, tap your foot to a pop song, or admire a famous painting, ask yourself, is this truly your unique choice, or is the invisible architect of mere exposure quietly pulling the strings?